right. Hello. We are the Transpositions coming at you live. Second week of Pride Month for the Transpositions Weekly, and we're glad to see you all here to celebrate with us. As you can see, we are absent Ember, but we have a Sara here, and Sarah's got had a recent experience that she's going to want to share with us. But before we get to hop into that, we'll go ahead and go around and get an update from our girls here. Steph, how's it going? How's the sailing?
Sailing's been fun. Sailing's been very fun. We Last night was our turn to set the table for the sailors, and so we did race committee. We were out there, and it was gusts to 17 ish. It was kind of breezy, but we set a nice course for them, and we were out late, taking advantage of the late sunsets, and getting a little Wednesday night racing action in. It was all kinds of fun. We were not so lucky on Tuesday evening because there was no wind at all. So, but it's been fun. It's been really great, and I've been really busy, and I'm actually really quite tired.
Sailing's tiring work, I imagine.
It can be.
Yeah. All right, Miss Karleigh, ma'am,
Hey,
how have things been going in your neck of the woods?
oh, it's been hectic, but got a lot going on this week. For starters, Saturday night we have the last game of our regular season, and we're going to the playoffs. The question is where we're going,
You sound a little
and
distant, Karleigh.
and we're going to the playoffs. The question is where we're going. I can tell you this much:
There we
we
go.
can. Hold on. Okay, we're going to the playoffs. Question is where we're going. But but first things first, we got to beat our rivals, the Maine Mayhem on Saturday night. And what is our military appreciation game on Flag Day? The Maine team's going to wear their camo jerseys, honoring the Maine National Guard. We're going to wear some wonderful black and gold. It's really given West Point that we got from the Connecticut Army National Guard. And special thanks to the Connecticut Army National Guard for being not only for loaning us a jersey, but signing on as a supporter of Connecticut ambush football this year and next year. And we have support staff on our team who are part of the Garden Reserves. We have people who were in the military, who are retired military, a part of our team. In addition to a head coach who, when she's not coaching our team, she's a Connecticut State Trooper. So we got a lot of
Oh,
people who are
cool.
on the front lines keeping us safe, part of our team. In Transposition Sports tonight, inside the big Twitter beef, Simone Biles and Riley Gaines went at it. It was the big beef. But we also look
Really?
deeper into what Simone said, what she didn't say, and what she should have said. But
Yeah.
that's the cartoon before the main feature. Special main feature tonight. We got to sit down with the vice president of Sparta Pride, U.S. Army Major Kara Cochran, and it is an excellent interview. So be with us, join us for sports. It'll be a longer than usual segment, but it's going to be a segment worth it. And Major Cochran is somebody you should, if you don't know who this woman is, you should. That's coming up in sports.
Oh
Cool,
yeah.
cool.
All right. I say my volume's low too. Let me see if I can't fix that.
I forgot that this mic was up.
Yeah. Oh no, you
Uh-huh.
sound great on that mic. I just need to adjust mine.
And about Stephanie, yeah, we had to get the little lot, we had to get the yacht rock going. Little Christopher Cross never hurts.
Of course. Why not?
Yeah.
But speaking of yacht rock, uh, may Brian Wilson be leading choirs of angels?
And
Also,
now,
may Sly Stone be leading choirs of angels?
yeah,
Dang.
the
I
thing
should be
about
better
Brian,
now.
the thing about Brian Wilson was he never, unlike a lot of people that got into the nostalgia thing, he always strove to keep himself relevant.
Mm-hmm.
He always drove to keep himself relevant, and that's something I respect from the masters are people you should always respect. But I always like when they get out of the comfort zone and work with newer artists. I mean, Brian Wilson was part of Janelle Monáe's album a few years ago,
Right.
and it worked out well. So, I mean, I became more of a fan of a Beach Boys for him doing that than ever, and I was already a fan. I mean, California Girls. I mean, you gotta love that song. I mean,
Caroline, no.
yeah,
Sort of.
Surfing USA, which is my personal favorite.
Oh, okay.
I mean, even if the Flintstones did a rip-off version of it. Remember, the Flintstones version did a rip-off version of that song.
I was unaware.
Yeah. All right. Well,
but what people don't know is the Beach Boys actually did the rip-off version. They actually performed the rip-off version.
Yeah, that was probably a Mike Love production. Whatever.
Anyway, we only have Sara for a limited amount of time because it's her daughter's birthday. So I do want to give her some spotlight here at the top of the show.
Happy birthday, Sarah's daughter.
Happy birthday, yes. We are glad that you were able to carve out a little bit of time for us. And first of all, how's it going? What's been going on? I know your life's been going through a lot of changes here lately. So give us the feedback on what's been going on with our pickleball legend.
I'm back home in Canada, and it feels great. Not gonna lie, it was a little stressful being a Canadian in the States, let alone an athlete on top of that. But it's been interesting, you know. Last time I came here, I was here in Canada in Christmas, so it was before Trump took office. So, you know, I went back to U.S. in Minnesota, which is a really calm, easygoing, open-minded place. And then all of a sudden Trump took office. All of a sudden there was a trade war. I was like talking to my boyfriend, like, oh, so by the way, your country's going to trade war with mine. So there's that. It's been interesting to watch. And interesting is a very light word. It's stressful. You know, I'm online a lot in the social media sphere, and I see enough to cause enough stress and grief in my day, whether or not things are directed at me. I feel the empathy for a lot of people, not just the LGBTQ, but any of the, you know, marginalized groups that are dealing with the backlash of having Trump as the president. I feel for. So a lot of emotional empathy, stress going on, but being back in Canada is very nice. It feels good. As soon as I crossed the border, I was like,
I want that feeling. I'm so jealous.
Oh my God. Again, you know, I was in Minnesota, so there wasn't like huge worries or anything. But in the back of my head, you know, as an immigrant, you know, still working on getting my visa, who knows what could happen? Getting pulled.
I mean, you say no worries, but California could be so you could say no worries too. But now
Sarah,
the military is there.
Do not emigrate to the United States. Don't. Think about what you have in Canada.
Well, when I went there, Trump wasn't in office, so you know. To be fair, things were very different.
You nearly had your own Trump.
Close, yeah.
You nearly had Mr. Poliv. Thankfully, Mark Carney took care of that. But let's face it, you've got a better sounding anthem. You've got Rick Mercer. You've got better. Actually, you've got a more fun version of football to watch. And you have a better women's rugby team.
And Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Personally, when it comes to Canadians, I'm partial to Kiefer Sutherland. Okay. After all, he is Canadian.
Okay. All right.
And a great grandson of probably one of the greatest Canadians ever to Canadian. The man who gave Canada, the man who showed how a civilized country behaves by giving them health care and making it a right.
Oh,
Thank you, Tommy. Now, if we only listened in the States.
Right. I was in the States for a year and a half, and, you know, my daughter got an ear infection, and there were a couple little appointments, and I had to pay out of pocket for this stuff. And I spent a good probably $2,000 US, which in Canadian, that's like $20,000. But we spent a lot of money. So I came here. My daughter was having her ear infection act up. So we went we booked an appointment with her family doctor, $0. Then he prescribed her some antibiotics, $6. $6,
Mm-hmm.
one day, dealt with. And I was in the lineup waiting to get to the registration, the front desk for registration for our appointment. And this lady behind me was like, "How long you been waiting in line? This is crazy. It's ridiculous. We're not even in our appointment." And she's like, "Da da da." I'm like, "I'll wait as long as I need to. I just got back from the States. We don't know how good we got it, girl. You can just relax here and know that you're getting free, awesome, high quality healthcare. Trust me, you're taking it for granted. Just enjoy it." She looked at me like,
Wait, yeah.
Let me guess. She votes conservative, doesn't she? She votes.
"Oh my God."
Do you vote for?
I was like, "Guys, wake up. Like, don't take this for granted."
Do you vote? She votes for the Bloc Alberta, does she not?
God. The separatists.
Anyway, yeah, Sara recently woke up to an email from a sort of a bigger production. You go ahead and tell us what happened. You woke up and
What, bigger than the
I think they're
Transpositions?
tiny.
Wait a second.
They're tiny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Their show.
we're tiny.
Their show is a joke, honestly. It's nonsense. But yes, I woke up to an email that I slept in till like 9 a.m. or 9 or 10 a.m. and I wake up and I see this email and it says Piers Morgan Uncensored. I'm like, what? Read the email. It says, "Are you available to join Piers Morgan Uncensored in about 5 hours to talk about trans women in sports?" I was like, what? I'm literally wiping sleep out of my eyes. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. First of all, I thought it must be like a scam or something, but I responded to it. The producer responded, said, "Can we get on a quick call just so I can get my facts straight and stuff like that?" And hopped on, and this was legit. And of course, I posted on Facebook. I'm like, "So check this out. This is the email I got." And tons of comments, mixed ideas of what I should do. Many people were like, "Don't do it. Don't. It's a trap. Run. They're gonna ambush you. Have you not seen Piers Morgan? They're just gonna spew rhetoric at you and attack you, and it's not gonna be good for you. It's not gonna be good for your cause. It's not gonna be good for the community." And the more that people told me I shouldn't do it, the more I was like, hell no, I have to do this. I see countless people spreading this terrible propaganda that's literally causing harm to so many people. It's causing violence. It's causing mental health issues, causing all these things. And I'm constantly saying, I can't sit idly by. I've got to do something about it. I've never been an activist before until, Trump and all the things that he's causing. And now I feel like I need to stand up. I need to use my voice, do something to help stand up for a community that's being, steamrolled for no reason. So I was like getting really passionate about the fact that I'm not going to let the fear of someone who might be bigger in following and standing online and stuff scare me out of standing up to a bully. So I stood up. I said I was going to do it. And my intention wasn't to go on there and try and debate this guy, because I know what Piers does. He just spews rhetoric and he cuts people off, and all he wants to do is attack. And what he really tries to do is get under people's skin and cause a reaction. So my intention was to go on and just be strong in who I am. And I like sharing this story because there's this guy who does like motivational speaking, and he gets on stage and he's always in this interesting outfit and his hair's always messy. And he said something one time that really stuck with me, and I love it so much. He picked on someone in the audience and he said, I'm gonna try and get under your skin. Okay, you ready? And he says, "Your blue hair is disgusting. I have no idea who in their right mind would go out in public with blue hair. What were you thinking? Are you insane? Like, blue hair? Blue does not look good on you, girl. What is wrong with you? You must be crazy, because honestly, terrible decision with the blue hair." And then he goes, "Did I bother you? Did that get under your skin?" And she's like, she looks at him weird and she's like, "No, I don't have blue hair." And he's like, "Right. Then why do so many people try and defend themselves from nonsense that some of these people try and put on you? How many times have someone tried to like tell you who you are and try and offend you, and we somehow, for some reason, want to defend ourselves, even though we know it's not true?" And it hit me so hard. And it's like, I should stop trying to defend myself from something I know, So like I go up on Piers and he's like, "Well, you're a man." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I don't need to defend myself because I know who I am." "You're a cheater." no, not a cheater. You can perceive me however you want. It's none of my business how you see me. And of course, everybody's going to see me differently. Some people see me as a mom. My kids see me as a mom. Some people see me as a daughter. Some people see me as a pickleball player. Some people see me as a life coach. Some people see me as an author. Some people see me as online face, I guess. And some people, I guess, can see me as a cheater if they want. It's none of my business. So when he tried to get under my skin, I kind of just smiled and said, yeah, but no, that's not true. And you could tell it bothered him. It bothered him greatly because he kept trying to get a little more aggressive and more, bullyish. And funny enough, he pretty much started the show by saying, Sarah, if I trained just a little bit, it wouldn't take long for me to beat you in pickleball. You know why? Because that's why we divide the sexes. He said that.
Ooh, I have a clip.
You want to play it?
Hold on. I got to flip the play of that. Yeah.
Before you start it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Play the clip.
I love that he started it that way because I was like, oh, I'm going to use this against you soon. And yeah, show how I did. It was funny.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Got to rewind it. Let me know if you can hear it.
I'm a man, yes, I am a male. And by the way, if I took you on at pickleball with enough training, I would win. You know why? That's why we separate the sexes.
Pierce, you opened this up saying if you trained hard enough, you could beat me easily.
Yeah.
So how do you see me? Am I a male or am I a female? Because if you think you can easily beat me because you're
Well,
a
I
male
happen to be
and
very
I'm a
good at
female,
pickleball, so that's a different matter altogether.
you kind of tattled on yourself there. I'm just saying.
No, it's a good point, and I take that one. I'm a man, yes, I am a male.
Yeah. So
Let's go.
you can't have it both ways, Pierce.
Yeah, his whole argument just went to shambles in 2 seconds. It was so awesome, and I didn't even have to try very hard. That's why I say they're tiny. Honestly, they just spew the same old robotic rhetoric, and if you have any sense and critical thinking, it's very easy to find the flaws in what they're saying and just go, hey, mistake number 1, mistake number 2. So it was fun.
Yeah.
All I can say is that went about as well as his relationship with Meghan Markle.
Oh,
That went.
Now he did have a guest host on there, which when we talked about, me and Sarah talked the other night about her coming on and doing the show with us tonight. So we were talking about Tommy Laren, and I thought that I was sure that she's going to be on there with Riley Gaines. I was like, yeah, they're probably going to put her up against Riley Gaines, and that's going to be terrible. But no, it was Tommy Laren, who has had far more gender affirming care than anybody on this panel. So for her to be coming at everybody else for how they look, because she was going pretty hard at Amani Khalif was what she was really focused on, and how you could just tell by looking at Amani Khalif that she was trans. And Amani Khalif is not trans, by the way. At least there's been nothing to indicate that she's trans. She may have a DSD condition, but she is not trans. Is not identified as trans.
Confirmed. Even that's not confirmed.
Yeah.
But her opening up and saying that drove me absolutely bonkers, because that is some of the crux of what's happening in today's feminine society. People like her are creating these boxes that all women need to fit into for her to see as a woman. For you to say, oh, it was obvious that this was a male and stuff, that's the issue you're causing here. To look at a woman and think that she's masculine because of her looks, so that must make her a male. You're causing issues, not just for trans women, but all women. And that I can't stand for that.
All right, you got to put your foot down somewhere.
No, but
yeah,
but also there's another piece to that. There's another piece to that as well, because if she was Irma Ketterman from Canada, it's not going down like this. You know it, I know it. You know it, and I know it. This is pretty dang. Yeah. No, we also have to talk about the fact she's from the Middle East. She is not white. She's not from the West.
Right.
And that's where all these rules are coming. And that's where a lot of these rules are coming from. My attitude is, if you test Amani Khalif, then you better test everybody. Test every female athlete. Let's see who's got it. Let's see who's actually an XY and got it hiding. Because I will giggle my behind off if it was, say, a Laura Mira.
Yeah, well, that's what some
Because-
biologists talk about. They say we don't test our students in colleges and universities. We don't test their chromosomes because it is impactful to find out that you don't have the chromosomes you thought you had, and it happens more often than
which
we
is
think.
why they stopped chromosome testing in 1998.
Yeah, it can like turn your whole world upside down.
Yeah, well, that's why. So, Pierce was talking about, I got the lab report and he's flailing this paper around. I'm like, have you seen your lab reports, Pierce? And he's like, I'm a man, I'm a male. I'm like, yeah, but you haven't seen your
How
lab
do you
report.
know?
How do you
How
know?
many? You might have
How
an
do you
extra
know?
X in there, Mr. Morgan. You don't know that.
Yeah, and it's not even just the chromosomes, it's SYR washes and
Mhm.
hormone washes, the SYR gene story and hormone washes, the way the genes express themselves. It's interesting. Biology is so much more interesting than they want to give it credit for. It's not lame, boring, black and white, up and down.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and-
I got really inspired from that show because it's getting clearer and clearer that we're at an impasse. This debate, this problem we're all facing. Half of us say, well, clearly the facts and the science show that HRT diminishes any advantages that come with male puberty. I can tell you stories upon stories of how I can prove that from my own self. I've come up against, because I play pro pickleball, I play a lot of women who are stronger, faster, smarter, better reflexes than me. The biggest example I can tell you from my own experience that was extremely obvious was I used to be able to do 100 push-ups straight before my transition. 100 push-ups nonstop. 6 months into my transition, I couldn't do 10. I could barely do 10. 6 months into my transition. I'm not exaggerating in any way either. That's what's crazy to me. So that really...
Hematocrit.
Sorry?
Hematocrit. That's one of the fastest changes that happens is the oxygen carrying capacity of the bloodstream. So it's
Yeah.
there's all sorts of physiological changes. So if there weren't physiological changes, probably no one would undergo hormone replacement therapy because it would not be effective.
What will be the point at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll trade 15 push-ups for the way I look and feel. Okay, I'll trade it in a heartbeat.
Right? It's
Yeah.
been amazing. I love the journey. I love the ride, but I do want to find a way to get past this debate because it's just one more thing that's causing so much nasty rhetoric against people who are amazing. Every trans person I've met, now, of course, there's bad apples in any group, but every trans person I've met have been amazing, courageous, strong in the face of challenge. And they're the type of people, we're all the type of people that understand what it feels like to be scared, to be uncomfortable, to feel like, we don't fit in. And we treat people in a way that is very inclusive, very understanding of what people are facing and the challenges that we don't talk about. So every time I've met trans people, they exude just a beautiful soul, beautiful soul. So to watch all this rhetoric go against these really amazing people, it chaps my ass. So I do want to find a way. And, I was talking to my mentor after the call, after the Pierce thing. And he was like, I watched you guys. You were close to understanding the real thing, but you didn't get it. And I'm like, well, do tell. He said, well, everyone's all uppity about genders. When in sports, it's not about the genders. It's about people versus people. And, we had this talk for 2 hours about people versus people and what could that really mean and how it's stemmed from this belief system of like gender superiority, which is incorrect. There is no gender superiority on either side. And even when it comes to the physical attributes, you can't say that men are the stronger sex because there are a lot of women who are stronger than a lot of men or faster than a lot of men or have quicker reflexes or taller than a lot of men or bigger than a lot of men. I mean, it's a big range. So it's not about this gender superiority, which is like programmed into people from kindergarten. And that whole gender superiority thing created this narrative that a lot of people have built their whole society on. And that's led to parameters like men division, women's division, and then co-ed and stuff. I would love to see or find a way and start the conversation on how we create different divisions based on skill level solely. I play pickleball. In pickleball and tennis, they have a universal skill rating. So I'm a 4.98 skilled player. When I play against another 5-0 like me, we're even, man or woman. Doesn't matter the gender. If you are that skill level, you are that skill level. So there's got to be a way that we can have, sure, keep men's leagues and women's leagues and whatnot, but also have leagues where it is basically co-ed and the parameters are different. The parameters of what allows you into a specific skill category. You know, with boxing, there's weight categories, but if we're going to mix in and do this like universal people versus people thing, it could be weight categories, could be height categories, could be, you know, experience categories, access to training. I don't know what the exact answer is, but I'm starting this conversation and my plan is to open up my own pickleball facility and start to actually show this and lead by example and see how it goes. Basically test out some theories and see how we can just have a fully inclusive league that, you know, a women's doubles team can go up against a men's doubles team if they all fit
That's
the same.
very, very cool.
Right. So it's going to be interesting because, you know, we obviously want to make sure that things are fair. And if, you know, all these people who are talking about fairness, you really don't care about fairness because all of sports existence has not been fair. It's not intrinsically fair. It's not a level playing field. So let's actually see what it looks like to kind of really define what fair really is. What is a fair playing field? What does that look like?
I'm sure you're aware. I don't know about your sport, but most sports anyway, certainly sailing. It all depends on the rule makers, you know, what they want. You know, sailing actually does have categories. There is professional and amateur. You're a category 1 or a category 3. And basically, if you provide technical assistance to other competitors, or especially if it's a team that you're sailing on and you're a professional in the marine industry, you are category 1. You are a professional. Doesn't matter whether you're if you're a drapery manufacturer, like, say Dennis Conner, you're an amateur. It's really kind of weird, you know. Again, it's the rule makers will you know, do what they do. But, you know, that's the thing with rules. Are they arbitrary or are they not? And I do think that you're onto something here as far as cutting down the arbitrariness of a number of these categories that, as you said earlier, are ingrained in people's patterns of thought. So
Right. And, you know, it could be next to impossible to just all of a sudden change people's belief systems that are ingrained. But if and when I start to lead by example and show people how it's done, the belief systems can change. You know, if we show that we're operating under a new narrative, under new parameters, then the, you know, underlying belief systems that men and women, it's not about superiority in the gender. There are people with superior height, and that can be a man or a woman. There are people with superior strength or speed. And you know what? The majority are men. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the fact that they do have, a lot of them do have superior strength and height, but it doesn't mean that the gender itself is superior. Even physically, it's not as simple as that kind of blanket statement. So that baseline belief system that is incorrect needs to change. But the only way to do it is to show the world that you can create a fully inclusive, fully fair system with different parameters based on a different narrative that is inclusive, that is not exclusive and gender divided and saying that, you know, one gender is better. That's just silly.
Well, the gender that was better last night was the distaff side. My dear friend Eliza Price won the evening. She was really, really spectacularly good, and yay go Eliza. I've known this woman since she was in high school. You know.
Oh, cool.
So she's a really good sailor.
Awesome. Well, you know, I would love this conversation. I want it to be a conversation because it needs to be talked about. We need to have the hard conversations. You know, me going on Pierce was about me stepping into a hard place, you know, and having hard conversations. I really wanted to have a more productive conversation with him because I'm open-minded and I want to see other people's perspectives. You know, I understand that there's fear and there's unknown and people kind of spew these headlines and stuff, but there's room for conversing and understanding why people feel the certain things that they feel. These hard conversations have to be had. And you know, there might not be one right and one wrong answer on all of this stuff. You know, I can only speak on my experience when it comes to sports and strength and all that stuff. But other people have different experiences, other people have different perspectives, and it's good to know what those perspectives are. I always say that we build a map of reality based on our beliefs and our perspective. My map of reality will never match your map of reality. You have a completely different map of reality. Only way for me to expand mine is to understand yours as much as possible and understand megas as much as possible. Understand the people that are really like, that want to hurt us. I want to understand why. Because if I know why, if I try and see what you see, then maybe we can find common ground so you don't see me as some threat or some scary boogeyman here to take all the women's medals away. Like it's interesting. So I want to understand. I want to have productive conversations as long as someone wants to have it as well, which is the hard part, right?
Sadly, a number of people seem to need threats and boogeymen, so they invent them for others to admire. And why they do that, I'd love to understand that, but that's...
Oh, I know why. I know exactly why, because I used to do the same thing when I was in victim mode. The only way I got through the day was by thinking it was everyone else's fault. It was the only way I could act as if I'm okay, even though I was on welfare. I was in this like ghetto townhome with bed bug infestation. And in my mind, it was everyone else's fault. It was the people who turned their backs on me. It was the government. It was taxes. It was, you know, right now, a lot of people are blaming MAGA or blaming the other political party and basically saying my life sucks because of other people. When I learned to take responsibility for what I was building in my life and what my life looked like and all the results that I had created, when I said, this is on me, nobody else. This isn't on the people who turn their backs on me. This isn't on the fact that I am transgender. It's not because God cursed me. It's not because of everyone else. This is because of me. I'm creating my results. The only way you can get out of victim mode and do something with your life is by taking responsibility for it. If you think it's everyone else's fault, that's easy. It's easy to go, it's not my fault. It's everyone else's fault. My life sucks because transgender people are playing in women's sports. But you can't fix your life. So anyone who is part of MAGA and trying to blame transgender people on why your life sucks, please do yourself a favor. Don't do me a favor. I don't care. I have big, thick skin. I can handle your criticisms and stuff. But for yourself, do yourself a favor and take responsibility for your life already. Stop blaming transgender women. Go do something for your life. Do it for you. Do it for nobody else. Do it for you. Own the fact that you've made mistakes. Own the fact that you've hurt other people, intentionally or unintentionally. Own the fact that you've hurt yourself, your loved ones. Own the fact that the mistakes you've made have led you to exactly where you are today so that you can go and do something about it. It's up to you. It's not up to trans people. Leave them the fuck alone.
For that.
So, I know you've got some nasty feedback and stuff over the last week from viewers of the discussion you had on Piers Morgan. Did you want to share what that experience has been like?
I don't read the comments. I went through the comment thread on that video like once, and I was like, I felt bad because most of the attacks were on the doctor. Take her license away. Like what? You didn't even let her speak, first of all. Yep. But see what I mean? Like even just reading those few comments, like just it's like frustrating. But no, honestly, I've had really good feedback. I've got a really good network, and I don't just delete and block everyone unless they really are disrespectful and stuff. Anyone, like I have a lot of people on my Facebook friends list and Instagram who disagree with a lot of what I say and will debate me. They'll challenge me and stuff, but they're always respectful, and I'm not going to block and delete them. And I don't want to create an echo chamber. I want to be able to see multiple perspectives. And the feedback was really good. Again, you know, I was cut off. They tried to bully me, tried to steamroll me. But the feedback that a lot of people said, and maybe, you know what, before I say what I experienced, I would love to hear what you guys took from watching that? Was there any positive impact when you watched it? What did you feel? What did you take from it? I am curious.
Well, I mean, when I watched it, I did feel like you got steamrolled. I feel like the doctor got steamrolled worse than you did, though, because she couldn't even get 5 words out before being completely cut off and having the conversation redirected. When she started to make a point, she was not allowed to. So I don't know. I do think that there's platforms where we can go on and engage with these people to get a better understanding, like you were saying, of where they're coming from and why they have the beliefs they do. And I don't know if going to a place where they're not going to let you talk at all, you're just there to be a punching bag, though. But I mean, you did get your words in, and you may have gotten more in than they were willing to publish, but they just didn't give either of y'all enough to talk to feel like it made like a real social impact on how people are going to perceive us. If that makes sense.
You know, I think engagement is interesting. I mean, if you go in with the intention of not getting steamrolled, and you know, you did a good job in that regard, you'll come off better than not. But it's also a question of, well, do you really want to make a habit of it? You know, how many interactions can you have with an absolute jackass before it becomes absolute jackass making money off of you showing up on their show or their channel or whatever? You know, it's like, well, that was great, but you know,
I mean, we've all done it. You went on Pine Creek, you know.
Well, exactly, and I stopped. And there's a reason I stopped. It's because, look, you know, I recognize this is the content you want, because his or many folks like him want to have that confidence. And Morgan's the same way. I'm here. Why am I even talking about trans issues? Because it sells candy, whatever the fuck it is. He doesn't care about much of anything except for the money, and the money is in being a jackass about trans people these days. Look at there are another couple of channels, actually 3, that are doing the same thing, platforming a literal Nazi and stone cold racist because there's money in it. You know, and so I think it's up to each individual to make that call for themselves. Yeah, I was on Pine Creek's channel for a bit. I basically handed him his hat and said, bye. Go grab your content elsewhere, dude, because you're full of shit. I just showed you to be full of shit, as you did, Sarah. Well, you're just kind of telling on yourself there, aren't you? And then you just, okay, fine, we did that. Now we can say, enough. See you in the funny papers, dude.
So I'm happy to say that a lot of the feedback that I got was that I showed strength in who I was.
There you go. That's all you need to do.
Well, yeah, you know, because that whole thing was like an example of what the world is like right now. You know, trans people as a target, and people who believe that, you know, everything they say is God's gift and it's gold, try and silence us. And I would not be silenced. So a lot of people share different perspectives on how, you know, they saw someone who was very sure of who they were stand up to a bully, while the bully tried his hardest to get under her skin and failed. In fact, you know, obviously I had my moment where I kind of embarrassed him and had him, and one lady said that it highlighted how much of a bully he was, especially because the person he was trying to bully wouldn't react, just wasn't falling for it, getting emotional and overreacting as if it was true. Like, you know, with the story of the blue hair, when you start to react, it actually seems like, oh, there must be truth to it. So I've had some really good perspectives saying that they saw something really good in, obviously, the representation of trans people. if you know who you are, you stand up for who you are. No bully can take you down, and that's worth celebrating. It's worth being an, what's the word? Accomplice. Someone said we don't need allies right now. We need accomplices.
Right.
So I want to inspire accomplices, and I believe I did so, and I believe we all have the power to do that when we stand up to bullies and not let them push us around and make us believe that we are what they say we are.
Yeah, and that thing about him beating you at pickleball, I just want to touch on that because
It's just
it
funny.
really so much reminded me of when Donald Trump stood there next to Riley Gaines and was like, I could beat her at swimming because I'm a man and she's just a little woman. And it's just like, really
But-
now?
See, she did all of women's
Well,
service.
man or whale.
I hated what she did that day for women, for all women. To stand there with a smile, a stupid smirk on her face. You could see it in her face. She was like, "It's not true, but I got to support you because you're backing my whole anti-trans cause. Yeah, you could beat me in a race. You're a man." So demeaning, so self-demeaning, and demeaning to all women. That kind of crap is nonsense. To allow a big fat blob Cheeto tell the world in front of her, who made a career off of tying for 5th place, so it's not special, but even getting 5th place, 4th place in the NCAA in swimming is an incredible feat. And she should be proud of that. I wish
She's a collegiate athlete.
Right. She should be proud enough to stand up to some man saying he could easily beat her because he's a man. That rhetoric drives me nuts.
80-year-old man.
Riley
80-year-old
Gaines can go to hell.
Totally.
I'm not a fan of Riley Gaines at all.
Oh,
You have
Nor
special
do I feel-
songs about her.
Nor do I feel she should. Nor do I feel that she's deserving of any grace, especially when you boo, dox, and harass kids. And also, just a note, Sara, since you're from Canada, since we got a Canadian on the show, I want to send a note and a plea to every member University of Youth Sports, Canada's governing body for university athletics. There's 2 kids that I want to see wearing like Western Ontario or Laval uniforms or UBC or any one of your member schools. One is AB Hernandez. She deserves to compete in college.
Yeah, she does.
She's that good.
She's
And
good.
while
and
you're
she's
at it-
loved.
Yes, I mean, she's that good. And Veronica Garcia, 400-meter runner out of the state of Washington, Class 2A champion there. She's kind of close to UBC. Come on, University of British Columbia, you got a good one that can help your track team. # just saying. But I don't care if you're in the Maritimes. I don't care where I don't even care if you're the University of Edmonton. I don't care if you're in Ralph Klein country. Somebody recruit these kids, and U Sports and the CCAA, please do not Charlie Baker yourselves. Please don't ban trans people. Please don't do it. Don't listen. Tell Rebel News to kiss
Charlie
your
Baker and yourself.
Tell Rebel News to kiss your behind and stop and Rebel News, stop doxing the kids. Stop sending your reporters to follow trans people into a contest. Just stop it.
Leave them kids
You're
alone.
horrible. Yes, exactly. Leave the kids alone. Rant done. I'm just tired of these people messing with kids. Just once, I'd like to see a parent of a trans child, when they're being harassed by somebody like a Riley Gaines, slap the taste out her mouth. Just once. I'd pay her bail because because these parents. No, AB Hernandez's mom was heckled and harassed weekly by a woman who is an elected official in their district, is a member of the state assembly in California, and wants to run for an elected office next year that will directly affect every California kid, which is superintendent of public education. If Californians, you keep Sonia Shaw out of that seat, out of that seat, no matter what, make sure she does not win. That woman is unfit to help educate your kids. She's unfit. And I would like to see the voters in the Chula Vista School District vote her out. Send her back to private life.
Yeah.
People like that have no business. But watch Riley Gaines run for Congress in a few years. She'll be the new Marjorie Taylor
Oh, she
Greene.
will.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah,
stand-
but you know, adults heckling and bothering adults is one thing, but watching adults picking on children is another. At the sidelines of soccer games or track meets or whatever, when you hear a group of adults yelling and booing at children, calling them slurs on the sideline while they're just playing sports with their friends, come on, guys. Grow the frig up. Anyways, that's why
Appreciate you. Yeah, appreciate you coming, Sarah. I really do. You stayed a little bit over, but you had a lot to say, and we're really glad you
Thanks so
took the
much.
time out of your day for us to come on here and say it. Any final words that you want to leave on that? That's fine too.
It's always darkest before the dawn. Hang in there, everyone. I know it can be a very tough time, and I know that, you know, it's easy to question the worth of existing right now, how worth it is to just exist. But it's darkest before the dawn, and things are going to get better, I promise you. And if anyone needs someone to speak to, an ear to just listen so you can vent, reach out to me. You can find me on Facebook. I'm Sarah Weiss. Find me on Instagram. Hang in there, please. It's worth it, I promise.
Save me a
Absolutely.
place in
Appreciate you,
Little
Sarah.
Toronto. Save me a spot in Little Toronto when they
You got
start
it.
coming after us.
I
All
got
right.
you.
Happy birthday to Sarah's daughter. Thank you so much for coming. Go have fun. Bonfire night. They're going to do a
Okay.
bonfire. It's going to be good stuff. She's
Thank you
she's at a
guys so
great
much for
location.
having me. So nice to see you all. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much.
I
Oh, all right. Well,
Oh,
it's so
hope she
great when Sarah
sponsors me
stops by.
we love Sarah, and she's a dang good player.
We get Sarah
That's the
stopping
thing.
by. We get
She's an
Dr.
excellent
Erica
pickleball
stopping
player.
by. We get all the cool people. Dr. Ben stopping by.
Sure.
All the cool
And
kids.
I'll tell you right now, I'm working on Dawn Ennis stopping by. She's interested. We're
I
just going
would
to get a
love
date.
that. I would love that. I love Dawn.
She's interested. We're just trying to get a date.
Yeah.
Oh, you know.
So, are you all ready to just jump right into this sports segment we got for tonight? Since Ember's not
Sure,
with
let's
us,
do it. It's
do
it's
it.
huge. Let's go and do that.
we got a full.
right.
It's a full hour of sports coming at you because we got a lot to cover. And thank you so much, Miss Karleigh, for keeping us informed, keeping us in the loop. Here we go.
A Twitter beef ignites when a sizzling pitcher gets hounded by a spoil sport who gets clapped back by a superstar gymnast. She's an athlete and a soldier, and she's speaking out on trans bans against being both.
Because the second we stop trying to fight for our right to defend our country and we cave into things like this, then the American dream is lost.
Transposition Sports, we're on target and running for daylight. Okay, get in. Huddle up. I, slot right, sprint right, jam, zig, Karleigh's clipboard. I, slot right, split right, jam, zig, Karleigh's clipboard. It's on one. Ready? Break. Yeah, it's a Karleigh's clipboard edition of Transposition Sports. Hello again, everybody. This is Transposition Sports. I'm Karleigh Chardonnay-Webb, and caught me on the practice field right now. Reason? Hey, we got a big game this week. The always tough Maine Mayhem come to town. That means my good friend Allie Cleveland. I'm sure we're going to run into each other a couple times this week. And also, it's our military appreciation game. And you need to check out these jerseys we're going to be wearing. It's kind of cool. Black, gold, camo, very black Knights of the Hudson. It's really giving West Point here. And a special thank you to the Connecticut Army National Guard for letting us use the jerseys. I'm looking forward to wearing them. Also, this game has a special meaning in part for me because of the voice you heard at the end of the introduction. Later in Transposition Sports, we're going to be hearing from Major Kara Cochran. She's a U.S. Army officer. She's trans. She's awesome. She's an incredible ultra marathoner. And she got a little nasty last season in the WNFC. She was a WNFC All-League selection as an offensive lineman and a linebacker. She's going to talk about this ban and what it means to her. More on that to come a little bit later on. But right at the top this week, of course, the Twitter beef of Twitter beefs. In one corner, of course, Riley Gaines doing what Riley Gaines does, picking on high school kids, because after all, she's a part of
Parents against women's sports, because we don't really care about women's sports. We're here for the transphobia.
Well, Gaines was at it again last week when she trained her sights on a kid named Marissa Rothenberger. Now, Rothenberger is a pitcher at Champlain High School in Minnesota, or rather, Champlain Park, I should say. Class 4A champions in softball, partially on the strength of Rothenberger pitching 3 straight games and being dominating. While she also got timely hits, clutch hits, got help from her offense, they win a state championship. And of course, Riley Gaines, being Riley Gaines, calls her a boy. Demeans this kid. Now, here's the thing about this. We don't know if Rothenberger is trans or not. That's something that came from the people that are all out, that are always doxing kids, putting them online. You know the icons, women, Karens against women, sports types. They do what they do. But there's been a lot of people who've also written on social media that this kid, it may not be trans. There are some people said she's intersex. Some people said she's just a very tall cis girl. It doesn't matter. The point is, you don't pick on kids. And Simone Biles, gymnastics legend, multi-time Olympic champion, probably the greatest gymnast to ever do a vault or a floor exercise or anything else, and a lot of people concur with that opinion, basically said it was gross of Gaines to do this. She got fed up and said, "You're picking on a kid." Now, of course, you know what happens. At one level, there were some people who went after her because she supposedly said, "Oh, you support men and women's sports. How'd you like it?" One person even went as far as said, "What if Larry Nassar said he was a woman?" Now, that was foul. I'm going to say that. The person who wrote that, knowing what Simone Biles has been through as far as being sexually assaulted by a team doctor, a member of the U.S. women's gymnastics team, I can tell you right now, you're going to hell for that. I'll just call it there right now. And of course, there were the people who believe what transphobes always believe, that transgender women aren't women, cisgender women suck at sports, who consistently said one of the greatest American athletes to ever represent this country, the Olympics, a world championship, or anything else in her sport, had the nerve to fix their mouth and say, well, if you had to go against men, you would lose. Well, I know quite a few male gymnasts who said, we don't want that smoke. It's Simone Biles. We don't want that smoke. Just so you know. Just saying. Simone was right in that. You don't pick on a kid. I don't care how you feel about this issue. You don't pick on kids. But that's something that especially these last few weeks, we've seen a lot of. We saw it with AP Hernandez. And we saw that with Veronica Garcia. In fact, remember, what happened to Veronica Garcia for the second straight year after she won a state championship? Roll the tape.
In a time of 55.70 from East Valley of Spokane, Veronica Garcia.
And in response, Veronica had this to say, and yes, we got video of this now, courtesy of Dystat.
Put this in the most PG-13 way. I'm just going to say it's a damn shame. They don't have anything else better to do. I hope they get a life, but oh no. It just shows who they are.
That's right. You heard it. She said it. And oh, Veronica, by the way, if you're watching this, I'd like to interview you. I want to do a sit down with you. Anytime you want to call on Transposition Sports, our door's open. The couch is open. Make yourself at home. But this is what these people have done over and over again. People like Riley Gaines have done it. In response, Biles also said, why don't you pick on someone your own size? Had she stopped there, I don't think anybody would have a beef with that except for the right-wing anti-trans squad and the Karens Against Women's Sports. But she took it one step farther and engaged in a little bit of gray area transphobia. Okay, not a little bit. To me, that struck me as tone-deaf and in poor taste, that she went after Gaines in that way. Now, that's what led to the second tweet a couple days ago, where Biles basically apologized. And and you know what? I have no problem with that apology. If she's apologizing strictly for that, who would beef about that? But there was more to it. And this is where I think that you give some deductions to Biles' score, because she did bobble a couple dismounts. One was when she said maybe there should be a separate category for trans athletes. Now, I understand in the heat of the moment, she was probably spitballing an idea. If nothing else, this is where the next step of allyship could come for Biles, to understand that, no, that's not a good idea. Yeah, and I know that there are people who say, for example, the California Compromise. My colleague at Outsports, Sid Ziegler, comes to mind, who said that this was a good idea. Sid, I disagree with you. A lot of other people disagree with you, and I disagree with anyone who says that that compromise was a good idea. And I disagree out of hand with the whole idea of separate but equal. Because the fact is, as we've seen conclusively with trans issues across the spectrum, especially in these last 5 years, separate never leads to equal. You know it, I know it, we all know it. But for Simone, I can give her a pass for that, at least in that moment. I can give her a pass and at least encourage her, talk to some trans people about this issue. Simone, you ever want to talk to me about it? Lines are always open. But the apology tweet, I have a fundamental problem with this. If it was just about the apology itself for getting a little personal with Riley, now at one level, that's just being classy, and I'm all for being classy. But on the other side of that, how much class does Riley Gaines and those like her really deserve? Because let's really think about it. Let's talk about the original premise here. They went after kids. These are the type of people that go after affirming parents and even go as far as accost them while they're watching their kid at a track meet, i.e. like that Sonia Jha individual out in California does. Even the well-meaning people like, actually I don't think he's well-meaning. He's a political opportunist, but Gavin Newsom allowing a high school kid to be name-dropped by a known anti-trans actor on his podcast. And I'll never forgive him for that, for letting Charlie Kirk use A.B. Hernandez as his own personal pinata without any pushback. But I look at people like Riley Gaines and I'm wondering, how much grace are they owed? And to me, they're owed none. I can respect Simone for wanting to apologize for making a personal comment and taking a personal shot at Gaines. But I wouldn't be too upset if she didn't apologize for it. Some people are trying to spin it as she's saying, I think, quote unquote, men and women's sports, or using their parlance and using their terminology, which she kind of does in her apology, is wrong as well. If she's apologizing for that, then that's where myself and Ms. Biles will have to part company. Because to me, the fact of the matter is, the whole concept that it seems that a lot of people are latching on, the concepts of fair competition and we have to balance inclusion and fair competition. First off, I have a question for anyone who feels the need to put that word fairness in. Number one, what about the current situation is unfair? Where's the unfairness? You're going to have to describe it to me because, quite frankly, scoreboards aren't finding it. The fact is, the scoreboard is not finding it in many ways. We're talking about small numbers, but also we're talking about limited results. That's one thing. You see, one thing that I truly believe is that when a cis person says fairness, what they really mean is fair is defined as the comfort of cis people. They're really meaning comfort. I've said this over and over again. Some of you are not comfortable with A.B. Hernandez winning it. So you know what they did? They decided, okay, let's make a way so that A.B. Hernandez is the winner, but she's not. That's what this compromise was. There's also the microaggression involved in it. Remember, A.B. Hernandez won the triple jump and had to share the gold medal with a cis girl. Now, that didn't happen in the long jump because because a cis girl had a better performance than AB, but AB is the only trans girl there. So theoretically, if that logic is right for AB to have to share a gold medal, shouldn't the winner of the long jump have to share the gold medal with her instead of AB Hernandez getting a silver and having to share that with a person that she jumped farther than, who really finished third? One thing I will say, Sid Ziegler and I talked about this, and Sid was like, everyone gets a medal. That's fine. I know one person who, if it was one of his athletes who got that medal and who got the same medal as AB got and didn't jump as far, he would be the first person to say, no, you give that medal back. Either give my kid the bronze medal that they earned or don't give them a medal at all. That would have been my dad. My dad wouldn't have trusted that. In a related note, AB Hernandez, who won the triple jump, tied in the high jump with two other competitors, overall had a great first state meet, even with the controversy, gave an extensive interview this week on what she's been through in the season she's had.
It's definitely crazy. I mean, I get a lot of hate comments, but I'm I don't care. 16-year-old girl with a mad attitude, you think I'm gonna care? The support was just intense. I mean, I wasn't expecting any of it, to be honest. I was expecting to just go out there and compete alone. They really made my experience perfect. Did what I wanted to do. I PR'd and everything, so that's really what I was aiming to do. So all this backlash, I'm just I performed my best, so that's all I cared about.
And thinking about this, my mind harkens to what Parker Malloy wrote on her Substack this week as well. The simple idea that trans people, to a lot of these people making these policies, aren't real. So they have no rights by which they're bound to respect. And that's also what's driving the train here. AB Hernandez has another year to compete. She'll be a senior next year, so she'll be back jumping, hopefully jumping well. If nothing else, I hope that a university in Canada takes a good look at her and says, hey, if you want to keep competing, come up there, because U Sport and the CCAA have not put on the ridiculous bans that the NAIA and the NCAA have. Canada didn't Charlie Baker itself, and that's not a bad thing. Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing AB Hernandez jumping for the University of British Columbia or Western Ontario or wherever. This is a kid who has earned the opportunity, especially, to continue competing and to win. When we return to Transposition Sports, we have a sit-down with U.S. Army Major, ultra-marathoner, and semi-pro football demon, Kara Cochran, to talk about the band, sports, and where the fight goes next. I'm Karleigh Chardonnay-Webb. This is Transposition Sports, a special Karleigh's Clipboard edition. Stay with us.
I interrupt Transposition Sports because I'm cute and I can't. And for this message from the angry gay grandpa. You don't pay me enough for this, Karleigh.
So maybe I'll start a little bit softer.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine.
Dad?
Before you say anything, I just want to apologize for what I said this morning. I've been doing a lot of thinking. If you want to change your name, if you want to wear a dress.
It's a skirt, Dad.
Skirt? I don't know the kind of support you need, but let's get you some for all this transgender stuff.
Wait, are you serious? Dad, what is this?
Oh, this is me supporting you. This is me saying I love you. This is me not losing you.
Love you, Dad.
Love you. Holly.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
Yes. Not bad for a 54-year-old arm, huh? Welcome back to Transposition Sports. I'm Karleigh Chardonnay-Webb, and yes, Karleigh's Clipboard Edition live from the practice field. And this week, we got a really special interview for you because there's this woman I know named Kara Cochran. If you look at her Instagram, first thing you notice, she hits that gym hard. And there's a reason why, because she's an active athletic sort, especially on the football field. Player coach for the Denver Bandits of the Women's National Football Conference. Was all-league selection on offense and defense. And I've seen her play some defense. I'll tell you, if you run the ball against her, you may want to rethink your life choices. And if she's not playing football, she's doing ultra marathons, adventure races, endurance events, anything to push herself and test herself. And watching her do what she does motivates you. Motivated me to get back in the gym, I'll tell you that. But motivation and leadership, that's her main job. See, her official title is Major Kara Cochran, United States Army. 17 years in, a decorated soldier, numerous commendations, 2 tours in Afghanistan, has led troops into harm's way, has been shot up for the country we all love. And now, because a certain Secretary of Defense feels that being a transgender American is quote-unquote incompatible with military service and dishonorable, she's being separated. I think about her and 15,000 other estimated transgender Americans who are being separated due to this ridiculous policy. We're grateful that earlier this week, Major Cochran sat down with us to tell her story of life, sports, the battle that's ended, and the war to come. Now, recently, you're a graduate.
I mean, I just graduated from another master's program, the School for Advanced Military Studies here, and which helps you become operational artist and a practitioner of military operations. And it's a advanced strategic studies degree, and it was a phenomenal course. I am grateful for having the opportunity and the growth to be able to go through it.
And even with all that, there's that one little fly in the ointment. But you turned it around. Here is how you did turn that around. Here's how you did that. Now I want to know one question. What made you decide to take a very difficult thing and turn it into a flex?
I mean,
you turned this into a flex.
People go and they say, hey, we're not going to allow you to do this unless you go in male regs. And you sit there and you're like, wow, that's cool. What a great narrative that is, like forcing us into male regs. Like, doesn't even matter, because at the end of the day, I'm still going to be able to do my job no matter what.
In fact, there you are.
I'm still going to, you can force me to shave my head, but you're not going to erase my femininity. You're not going to erase who I am. I'm still a trans woman, and I still will live my life as what I have gone through. And yeah, I'm going to flip this script on you and, throw it back in your face and say, no, you may tell me that in order, if I want to walk across the stage, I have to cut my hair. And that didn't come on my chain of commands here. That didn't come from them. So I'll leave it at that. And so I don't think they understand who we are. I don't think well, first off, they don't, otherwise they wouldn't be doing this to us. But at the same time, I don't think you understand who I am and the character that I have and the strength and resilience that I've built over time. If you're going to try to purposely intimidate me and take something away from me that I have merit for, oh, you did. You pushed the wrong button. And yeah, I will 100% say bet and cut my hair, and I will still show up and do the job. Now, was it stressful? Is it traumatic to lop off all of my hair? Absolutely. My hair was down past my shoulders. I miss it. I miss being able to braid my hair. But you know what? Like, for the principle, to maintain my character, to maintain my integrity, and be able to get what I want, and be able to get what I deserve, I mean, I'll do it. Sure. But don't say it's because I'm conforming. I'm not. I'm showing you that it doesn't matter what you do. We are still here.
What has it meant for you to serve the nation and move forward in your transition?
Yeah. You can tell by a big flag behind me. I am the vice president for Sparta Pride, which is a nonprofit organization that supports and advocates for transgender service members. And right now, there is a mass purge of transgender service members out of the military. And being outspoken, there's no way of me hiding it. And it's difficult. I've been doing it. I've been serving for 17 years. Before that, I was on an ROTC scholarship for 4 years. And so I've been living this lifestyle for 21 years, and now I'm 39 years old. And just imagine anybody coming out of a career, you'd be kind of worried about that. You're worried about finances. I'm still likely not going to be able to get a pension. And so there's a lot of unknowns. But if it wasn't for things like sports, I would have never had the resiliency, both physically, mentally, emotionally, to be able to deal with this hardship ahead. If it wasn't for things like sports.
I just heard you say, won't get a pension.
Yeah.
Now, to a person outside looking at this, makes no sense. 2 tours in Afghanistan. You've led troops. You've been shot at, and you're not getting a pension. And also, you've heard some of the things that the Secretary of Defense has said about trans troops. When you hear all that, do you ever get the feeling in the back of your mind, why am I going to engage in a fight to serve a nation that seemingly doesn't want to serve me?
Because the second we stop trying to fight for our right to defend our country, and we cave into things like this, then the American dream is lost. The ideals of freedom and liberty are gone. So I have grown up with a sense of patriotism, a sense of honor and character from my upbringing as a young kid, to reinforcing that, reinstilling that. And, I don't just wear the Ranger tab, I bear it, in which, you never quit, you never surrender, you never leave any of your fallen comrades behind. You continue to display the intestinal fortitude that's required to complete the mission. And I'm not going to stand by, and we're not going to stand by and let people strip freedoms that we have fought for through our honorable service that we've been open about for over a decade.
There's some of the things you've heard from the civilian leadership. What has been the most insulting thing about this ban to you?
I think the thing is most insulting is to say that we lack courage and honor because we're serving in a birth sex other than the one we were assigned at birth. And it's so funny because you do not understand the amount of courage it takes to come out as a transgender service member, be transgender in the world today, play sports as a transgender athlete. The amount of courage that it takes for any of these people to do that is well far beyond that it takes to just raise your right hand to serve your country. That's my honest opinion, because I know for me and my own personal experience is that was scarier and took more courage to live as my authentic self, which would be the honorable thing to do. So I always find it very, very interesting that the verbiage was used towards us is that we lack courage and honor, when those are the two principles that probably explain who we are more than anything.
I'll admit, for me, that bothered me hearing that.
It should, but
that bothered me here. That bothered me hearing that because of my people, because of people that who are in the service, and people know who have served. One thing I hear a lot is, you trans troops are a readiness issue. You've led troops. In what way does that phrase not hold water?
All right, so you want to talk about readiness, right? Let's break down readiness. Okay, so you want to talk about deployability? We can do that first. We're deployable. Period. Next question. If you wind up getting a surgery for your shoulder, right? You're going to be non-deployable for, if I have a grade 3 AC joint separation right here. It's pretty gnarly.
Ouch.
If I had gotten a surgery on that, right? That was going to be 6 months non-deployability on profile, tons of physical therapy and all that stuff. But I grit and bared it and used grit and was smart in my rehab with it. And it took years for it to function. But if you go on my medical profile, you'll never see me on profile for it. Why? Because the injury occurred 1 month before I was supposed to rotate as a battalion S3XO over to Korea, right? The surgery that I got, I timed right after Thanksgiving when everything slows down before holiday block leave.
Right.
That's when I did it. Between exercises, during time when there's nothing going on, where it was going to work out, recovery, come out of it at the 6 week mark. I was told, hey, you can go back to PTing and do whatever you need to do. And those are the surgeries where people go, oh, you're not deployable for an entire year. It's a lie. And it's very frustrating to hear that as something that's being told all the time. We're saying, oh, they're non-deployable. Yet when the policy came out, we had service members about to embark on missions on ships in the Pacific. We had service members in undisclosed locations in CENTCOM. We had people who just got back from deployment out there as well. We had people serving all over the globe. Yet you're going to sit there and say we're not deployable. It's wild. And the other thing, the medical side of things, right? The cost that it takes to remove us from service far, far outweighs the cost that it takes to maintain us. And we're talking something along the lines of 50-fold.
No,
Just
talk about that
separate.
cost. Now, one thing, talk about that cost, because a lot of people just as the idea is like, we hand you your discharge papers and that's it. It costs the amount to print out the discharge papers. What doesn't the civilian know about what's about to happen to get rid of
Think about it.
15,000 people?
For me, I was supposed to move and go to another duty station where I was going to be a planner along with a couple of other planners. We've now taken me out of the equation, and you've now taken that work and thrown it on the shoulders of other people who have families. And now you've taken away time, talent, and energy from an organization that you cannot backfill. And therefore, and even if you do the next man up, that has a trickle down effect of time, resources, and money it takes to train these people. And so when you remove somebody, say, that's 15 years in the military, you're talking about a multi-million-dollar investment. Think about just a cyber warrior. The amount of money that it costs to train somebody to protect our elections, to fight against, our adversaries who are trying to influence or infiltrate our government. That is an egregious amount of money that you now have removed from service. And it costs the taxpayers tons and tons of money. So then now that you're going and pushing them through the separation process, you're also costing taxpayers $1 just to remove them from service. So say it costs $500 million worth of money to separate all service members out there. Now, if you're going to do the money there, and then you factor in how much does it cost for our medical care a year, you're potentially removing qualified service members who are deployable. And you're potentially you're doing that, the cost to allow us to get medical care, times that by 100. So the cost that you've taken to remove us from service could have paid for our medical care for 100 years. And then you want to talk about one other factor? It's still, the military is still spending like close to 10 times as much on Cialis or Viagra for men than they do for transgender medical care. We still provide testosterone for people who have low testosterone in deployed combat environments. Same thing for estrogen for women that are out there as well. Hormone replacement therapy is not just people who have gender dysphoria or had previously suffered from gender dysphoria. I don't suffer from gender dysphoria. I don't. I solved that problem when I transitioned. And then you forced me to cut my hair.
We're getting to that. We're getting to that. Yeah. But so within that readiness issue, the whole, if we send you to say Saudi Arabia, we can't keep your testosterone and estrogen cool. We've heard that one.
Yeah. So like, for instance, I know people who deploy with that anyway, right? Small vial, everything's fine. Me, I am on pills, so they could never use that excuse against me anyway. So, I mean, the argument of, frontline troops, so like what's going to happen and all this other stuff. And you sit there and I go back to 2010 when I was a combat outpost where I didn't shower for 3 months and I rotated out there twice for 3 months each time on the Afghan-Pakistan border. Well, I get 3 months of supply of pills that's like tiny as hell that fits anywhere, and that's 90 days supply. That's my refill. So people forget, even during World War II, we rotate units out of the front lines. And they also forget that we resupply classes of supply. And it's as simple as the doc within your platoon going, so-and-so needs this medication. And then that medication gets pulled from a pharmacy, and the next resupply on a helicopter or some other means. It gets dropped off with all the other supplies. Why? Because we're the best fighting force in America, in the world. Period.
Now, there's also the M word, morale.
Oh,
Major Cochran, by having you as you are, would change the unit. It would affect the morale.
you know,
We've heard this before. I know history has shown.
back in October, prior to October, as I was going through school, we never talked about me and who I was and what I was going through. And then we had to after November, because it was like, hey guys, I'm gonna get kicked out. And I don't know what that's gonna look like, but we're gonna fight against it, and we're gonna try to maintain our service and what's there. And that's the problem, is like when I was in a tank battalion executive officer, I did my job and I was with the other service members, and it was not a discussion. No one cared. Could you do your job? That's all that mattered. Yeah, when I first showed up, just like when the first women showed up in combat arms in a tank battalion, some dudes were just kind of like, whoa. You know, I remember one of my very first days, you know, I was a career light infantry officer, and I showed up in tank battalion. I'm in the motor pool looking at a tank, and I'm going, what is that? Well, that's the power pack. You know, you got the engine, you got the turbine, the transmission, like it all comes together in a power pack, and they're pulling out of the back of the tank to do maintenance on it. And I just go up to a staff sergeant and I go, hey, Sergeant, like, and you could tell he was visibly shaking because one, the battalion XO is talking to you. That's scary. 2, female infantry officer. 3, transgender servicemen. They were scared to talk to me. And I was like, hey, man, have you ever met anybody like me before? And he was just like, no. And I go, hey, dude, it's fine. I'm just a regular human being. I just want to know, what can you tell me about this tank? And he was like, yeah, ma'am, yeah. So, and he started explaining the engine and different parts of it and all this stuff. And after that interaction, didn't matter, didn't care. And that's what people they don't understand. And we've heard the same rhetoric over and over and over again. Oh, I can't be in the same foxhole as an African-American man. I can't be in the same foxhole with a woman because I may not be able to control myself. That sounds like a you problem. Oh, I don't want to be next in foxhole wondering whether or not the guy next to me is gay. No, that was never an issue. No one cared. And then, oh, I don't want to know if the person next to me is gender confused. And you're like, really? Do you think if I'm in a foxhole, that's the thing we're worried about right now? No. I'm worried about survival. I'm worried about watching your back, and can you watch my back? Period.
What was your experience like playing women's semi-pro football?
Well, I'll be honest. In a previous life, I always wanted to coach football. I was always like, oh, man, I'd love to have, kids growing up. It'd be great to have a boy and teach him to play football like my father did to me when I was in high school and Pop Warner. That was like always a dream, right? And then when I lost my family and I transitioned, I was like, nope, never going to be able to do football thing ever again. And it was actually when I was early in my transition that a player from Dallas, Texas Elite, and their spouse at the time actually came from Kansas City, and they were both from Kansas City. They were like, hey, you should check out, women's, football. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Women's tackle football? That doesn't exist. And they're like, yeah. And then they're like, we're standing up a new league. It's the Women's National Football Conference. And I was like, well, this is cool. But yeah, no, I really don't have time for that right now. And like, I got brand new kids and all this stuff. And I was just like, Like, it was one of those things where you earmarked and you're like, oh, that's interesting. Fast forward a couple years later, and I had started an Instagram account to kind of follow my journey, and I get a message, and it was from the owner of La Muerte de las Cruces, or Las Cruces de la Muerte, excuse me, and in New Mexico, and I was stationed in El Paso at Fort Bliss. And you're like, hey, see you lifting weights, are you, do you, have you ever played football before? I'm the owner of this team in the Women's National Football Conference. And I was like, I've never heard of this league before. It's been years. But, I sat down with him. I talked to the coach and the owner, and I was like, hey, all this sounds great, but, I've got this going on. And then we pulled up the regulations, and you need to have been on hormones for 4 years. And so I sat back and I was like, hey, I can't play, but, I'd love to coach. And so when I coached that year, I then halfway through the season did a rotation to Korea. And then when I was on my way back, they're like, hey, coach, the team from Las Cruces, it's dissolved, and a bunch of us are up here in Denver. We could use you on the, O-line. And I was just like, all right, bet, let's do it. And so when I came back, I actually had to fight my way and earn my spot. So I did a bunch of special team stuff, and it wasn't until the playoffs that I actually started on the offensive line. And a lot of people looked at that last season that I played, where I was a fullback and I was a defensive end, and they're all like, oh, there's a bunch of tackles and she's getting touchdowns and stuff. Like, I didn't realize my first couple years in the league, I was an offensive lineman. So I would love to roll that clip of making good blocks or pancakes like that. People forget that the trenches is where it's all at. And so I did that. And then moving into my last season, I told the coaches, I have a surgery coming up. And then when I get done, we'll see if I can play. But if I play, I would rather, play a different position. And that's when I wound up playing. And I came into women's tackle football because I was recruited into it. And then I played in women's tackle football because my teammates that I coached wanted me to be part of the team. And then I stayed because of my teammates that I played with, because honestly, it's the closest thing you can be in the trenches of warfare is being in the trenches with your sisters playing football.
What's your thoughts on some of the things you've seen, some of the things have happened in the landscape? When you started playing ball, Leah Thomas happened. More recently, you've got people booing high school kids.
The rhetoric is just absurd. And honestly, if you were to look at the grander scheme of things, and you and I have talked about this before, right? Like if you make it like, hey, you can take estrogen and show up tomorrow and never have gone through anything through, you haven't done anything, right? And you've barely gone through the process. Your body hasn't even transformed, but now all of a sudden the next day or a year later, you're showing up and you're doing it at a competitively. Now, if I'm playing, local kickball league, who cares? But if I'm like playing professional women's sports or on an NCAA or something like that, then yeah, there needs to be thought put into it. But if you just cut off and say no sports for kids, no sports for anybody, you're missing the point of sports to begin with. And that's to be able to grow, learn leadership skills, teamwork, all these things while you still get physically better. If you eliminate that from kids or just a demographic of kids, you're disenfranchising them for a generation.
One thing for yourself, you not only play a team sport, you do, like we said earlier, you're going to do like a 50K, 50 miler. You do some. What got you into the ultra life? What got you into that? Because, I mean, I want to do an ultra at least once, just to say I've done it. But you do one, and then you're already saying, what's the next one I can enter?
Yeah, my old college roommate was here 6 years ago. We met up, and we met up to watch watch out, everybody. I grew up 10 miles from Gillette Stadium, so we were watching the Patriots play with Tom Brady. Okay, like I grew up there. It's the way it's going to be. All right, our high school rival was Foxborough, and so we watched a football game, and I met up with him and his spouse, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to go on a run?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's go on a run." And we went on like this 5-mile run, which I was back then. It was like 5 miles. Like, this is insane. And I was sucking wind, but we were talking about all this stuff. Well, what I didn't realize, this is us like trying to relearn each other from being college roommates and me having transition. And he was just like, we got done with the run and we were catching up, and he's like, "Hey, so run again tomorrow?" And what I didn't realize was like he was a mountain climber, and he did all sorts of alpine sports. Well, we're in Kansas. There's no alpine sports. So he was getting himself into like trail running so he could move across terrain and still keep up with fitness. And what I didn't realize was he was coercing me into the next thing I knew, I'm signing up for the Kansas City Marathon. And then we're signing up for ultra marathons. And when COVID hit, after that, the gyms were closed. There was nothing else to do except for run. And that's when I actually did a fundraiser for COVID, and ran 50K here around Post and raised like $800 doing it. And then I realized how miserable that was, but also it challenged me. And so the next year I did some ultras, and then I just wound up continuing to do ultra marathons all the way throughout, and except for my rotation to Korea. And yeah, it's just one of those things now, or becomes habits. Like, hey, it's summertime, I gotta start looking for races. And I just love the challenge of having to go through it. Last year, and I ran a trail marathon, ran the Kansas City Marathon, and then I did a 50-miler 6 days later after the Kansas City Marathon. But you want to look at, use that for grit. Heck, one of my friends, she's a lieutenant colonel and a CrossFitter, and she was just like, you know what? 2 days before the 50-miler, she's like, "I'll run that with you." And so we wound up doing a 50-miler, and that was her first ultra marathon, and she just went out and crushed it because she's a phenomenal athlete. Game respects game,
What's the next step? What's the next step in this battle to stay in the uniform you've earned?
Well, unfortunately, that battle's kind of lost. The war's not over, but the battle is lost. We had an injunction for a little bit of time, and we fought against that. And everybody thinks Supreme Court already ruled on it. They did not. They stayed the injunction. So now we're going to be continuing to fight it. The appeals courts for both the injunctions that are there are still going on. They still have the same stance, that is discrimination. But when it goes through that process, the Supreme Court won't see it probably until next year or later. right? The problem is with the current policy, we'll all be purged from military service before the Supreme Court even looks at it. So the war's not over. And even if the Supreme Court sides at the time against it and uses some old policies to say that this is why, they can still do it, with disregarding the fact that it's just straight up discrimination. We'll have the ability to continue to still fight it afterwards. This is just one advocacy group. There's dozens of advocacy groups that are all coming together and working together to fight against this. And, I hate the excuse that the pendulum will swing back and, it'll right itself up now, like in the long run. I'm kind of tired of that excuse. Like, solidifying it into law and allowing us to serve, solidifying things into law, like, hey, you can continue to play women's sports, or, we still haven't even talked about trans men in the military. We still haven't even talked about trans men in sports. Like that, where's the uproar about that? There isn't. And that's why it's discrimination. And so you sit back and you go, this is all ridiculous. And maybe at some point there'll be some legal protections. And we just let people serve their country because they love it. And we let people play sports because they love it. And it's good not only for those people, but also for the human race to have people who understand leadership and teamwork. But, whether it's military service or sports or just anything, realize that our job as human beings out there is to continually grow and continuing to learn throughout our entire existence that we're here on this earth so that we can become better human beings. And if there's anything, right, serving your country is a selfless way to continue to try to make the world a better place. That's one aspect. The other aspect that we talk about is sports. Sports is crucial for kids, for anybody, to learn teamwork, to infuse not only the mental aspect, but also the physical, social, spiritual, and emotional aspects of life. So whatever you do, learn about it and continue to understand that, if we're doing the transgender thing, look, me being transgender is just one aspect of who I am. Kara Corcoran is far more than that. And you should get to learn to know us and continue to grow just like anyone else.
This is just the same discrimination warmed over and over again. Almost 80 years ago, they were saying the same thing about black troops. They've said the same thing about cisgender gay and lesbian troops. They've said the same thing about women in combat. Whatever group is not pale and male, they say this about. And time again, history has shown that performance wins out over prejudice, or at least we'd like to think so. What's happening here is the same thing that's happening with the whole sports issue, and by extension, the whole issue with citizenship as a whole. This is just another version of what I call Dred Scott 2.0. Some people want to say who is American and who is not. I find that very, very laughable in the case of Kara Corcoran, because I can think of no one who is perhaps more American than she is, and those like her. At the same time, this all goes back to what we talked about at the top of the show as well. The idea that people who are claiming allyship in this moment are also trying to make that allyship conditional. They're also saying the thing, they're also trying to kind of hedge and say, well, I'm for this, but no. In this Pride Month and every day after, that won't do. It won't do for the kids that are being booed. It won't do for Major Corcoran and her comrades in arms. And it won't do for me either. Something to think about as we head through Pride And as we head to a week after Pride ends, this nation celebrates its independence. With that in mind, I just want to leave you with this. Transgender Americans are Americans. For Transposition Sports, I'm Karleigh Chardonnay-Webb.
All right. Thank you so much for that segment, Karleigh. I appreciate everything that you always have to contribute. Appreciate Sara for coming on tonight and spending some time with us and telling us about her current situation and her future plans. And yeah, you got anything else for us tonight, Steph?
Not really. I think it was a great show. Thank you so much, Karleigh. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh,
Those
thank
are
you,
great
Sara.
sports segments. Great coverage, everybody. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, everybody out there in the audience as well, and those who stick around and those who have been here and those just popping in. We appreciate every single one of our viewers. So watch us for
Right.
shorter form content in the coming weeks. But yeah, I think we're good to go.
I
hit the
think we
button,
are. I
Steph.
think I'll hit the button. Here we go. Good night, everybody.
Night.